Welcome in, everybody. It is season 5 of the Cannabiz Conversation Podcast. I am so thankful to be doing this again. Thank you so much to everyone for all the do it again messages I got after last season. It was really cool. I really appreciate it. And so here we are. We're doing it again. We're lucky, though. The reason we get to do these shows is because we have sponsorship. And this new sponsor, man, it is... Look, I don't know if you love you a good pre-roll, you're gonna love the sponsor for season 5. They are absolutely at the top of their game in it. If you're not familiar with Hefestus, their automate pre-roll production map packaging to help operators scale while keeping pre-rolls fresh. And I got to tell you, the fresh part is what I like, right? As someone as a consumer end. I like the freshness in my pre-roll. It's why I get it. So these guys' system controls the oxygen levels automatically, protecting the burn quality and aroma all the way from their shop to your house. That's the kind of people you want to be looking at. So check them out, hefestus-tech.com to learn more. We're so glad to have them on board. And it just so happens that we have the leader of business development there, Tomer Oliel. How are you, Tomer?
Very good. Thank you for having us, Sean.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. You're someone I've wanted to have on the show for a while because I'm a pre-roll consumer, man. That's where I go. I live in a prohibition state, so I got to go elsewhere to find them. But when I do, it's what I look for. So we like to kick the show off, Tomer, with a little bit of an origin story. Why don't you tell us, man, how did you first find the cannabis plant?
Okay. Well, cannabis came into my life kind of on the early side, maybe when I was 13, 14, through just friends and something that was kind of in our area in Rome of the people that was hanging out at the time. And it just attracted me immediately. For somebody that was diagnosed with ADD and ADHD, it was an immediate pair. And I don't think I left the plant since.
I love it. Part of the early group. We've had the 13s, the 14s on here before, so we've definitely heard that. Tomer, did you just say in Rome? Is that where you grew up? Is that what you just said, or did I miss that?
No, Rome of my environment. I grew up in Israel. So
at 13, 14 in Israel, you came across the plant.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Well, all right. So I'm going to have to go a little bit further here. Obviously, growing up in the United States, it doesn't seem as taboo as it does in other countries. What is the relationship between the plant and Israel at the time? You're 13, 14. What does that relationship look like? Is it as oppressed as it is here, as black market as it is here? What was that like?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. It was very illegal. It wasn't hard to access or find, but it was kind of illegal and on the radar of enforcement. So we were constantly being pursued, constantly being harassed about it. Kind of one of the reasons I dropped out of school, 9th grade, was because or thanks to cannabis. I like to hype it that it didn't ruin my life. It built my career and it gave me a passion and a clear path to what I want to do. And I want to make this plan accessible for the public.
That's in 9th grade you make this decision. In 9th grade, I decided I really liked it and I was going to just do it as often as I could. And for me, it was a way to just have control in a different way. Really calm my mind. I'm a high getter, right? Like I wake up with this amount of energy. I get out of bed this way. I don't use caffeine. I don't use uppers. Again, if people knew the amount of downers I use, I think they'd be pretty shocked. But for you, growing up 9th grade, you say you want to commit to the plant. What does that look like at 9th grade, man, in Israel? What are you doing in those next steps or for better sake of conversation, what's the next thing you did after dropping out as it relates to the plant?
Well, I'll give you the quick story about leading up. I don't know how it is in the US, but in Israel, we had sexual education, talking about sex, protection, and just being aware of the, different elements as a young teen. And along those lines, they brought drugs and education about drugs and what they're harmful and why you should stay away from them. And one of the classes, they talked about cannabis. And I it's resonated with me. I just was curious to learn more because it was told that it's a plant. I guess in English they call it the devil's plant or something in the back then. And I was like, well, if I have faith and I believe in God and in Judaism, there's a lot of like, there's no things on earth that God put that are either, not for a purpose or a reason. And I just researched it a little bit and found out that actually has some medical benefits. And Israel was pioneering the research at the time. But fast forward maybe a year or two, and they asked us to kind of put a like a write-up about what you learn about drugs and what you should be away from and blah, blah, blah. And I basically wrote a very positive article about cannabis, that the research that I found, it's positive and it has health benefits. And the fact that they told us that it's bad, it may be if you abuse it, but in reality, it also has a lot of benefits and a lot of medical uses. And that kind of rang the alarm for the management or whoever school. And they got my parents involved, and they got the school counselor, and it's like, and I was not backing off. I'm like, open Google, go do your research. You'll find some very helpful information. But then I realized that it's just the wrong environment for me. And after that, it was a quick way out of school and started pursuing my own path at the time. It didn't involve cannabis. It involved more computers. And just at the time, it was very hyped. Just Windows was coming up, getting out of the DOS area into Windows. But that was kind of the beginning, the seeds that were later natured.
That's awesome, man. I love that story. So we have, it's called DARE here in the States, Drug Abuse Resistant Education. It was an early 80s adaptation, and it's what turned me on to drugs, because when someone says, no, it's bad, I'm like, well, hold on, I'll be the judge of that. And so I'm one of many people who's come on the show and have had their experience with DARE. And we all say the same thing, which is, yeah, you told us no, and we went and found out yes for ourselves. And so that makes us better. But I want to touch on a few things that you touched on. One, I think it's common misconception that, cannabis is so bad if you overuse it. Well, everything is if you overuse it, right? So you can't just make a convenience argument because it's cannabis that like, oh, it's abuse. Well, alcohol, cigarettes, how about physical, mental? Like, okay, there's plenty of abuses, right?
Even water. You can drown yourself if you overdrink water.
See, I did not know that, because I, as my wife tells me, I don't drink enough. So I definitely did not know that. But to your point, right, is that everything, to me, as an addict of everything. I'm an addict of working. I'm an addict of drugs. I'm an addict of gambling. I'm all of it. But I've been able to use moderation for my whole life to be able to find where that balance is, to make what works for me. It doesn't work for everyone. That's why I don't go out and write books about how to be an addict of moderation. I'm not trying to encourage, but I am trying to let people know. The other thing, and I am not a religious guy. I grew up Irish Catholic, whatever, doesn't matter. But you said you grew up religious. God created, right? So this is part of God's creation, right?
Right.
Why is it that cannot be a fact, right? When you talk to people who have a heavy religious overtone, it's the devil, but because it's being left out, it's like a matter of convenience. You know what I'm saying, Tomer, in that argument? Like, it just bothers me that way.
In a way, yes, and I try to argue that, but then there is also plants that got put on earth and they're poisonous to us, and we shouldn't consume them or we shouldn't touch them. So there is kind of a balance.
Damn it, Tomer.
And it goes back to, you just need to, one, learn, do your research. There is, even in mushrooms, all mushrooms, right? But there is some that are non-psychoactive and very healthy, and mycelium, it's very healthy, and there is a lot of ways for us to use it. But it's also very individual. Some people, it's the wrong thing for them. So I think just knowledge.
That's the important part for me, man, is that it is okay if cannabis isn't for people. cannabis can have negative effects on people. It cannot be great for everyone. And I wish that in the vacuum of the cannabis discussion, we could all have a greater just sort of understanding of that. Because I feel like I hear so much about this like pedestal of a plant. And I get it. I want to elevate it too. I agree. But to act like it doesn't have a downside, I think doesn't do any of us any justice.
I agree 100%. And we should focus on our next generation and younger, teens and their phases, and focus on education, because that's going to benefit all of us in any way and shape of our life, culture, and society.
Education is huge, man. And that's what I like to go out and learn about. Again, I'm a cannabis consumer. I've been in the background of cannabis for north of 20 years. My wife and I were medical growers in Colorado back in the early or middle 2000s. And so I've always been around it. I've always been involved, but I make a career in automotive. That's where I've made my living since I was 18 years old. I don't know how to do anything else. This podcast was meant to bring me into the industry a little bit, to understand the industry. And so I really want to understand, how did you get in to this crazy industry where you are today? What's the journey from entrance to where Tomer sits today as biz development man?
Well, I kind of took a path. Cannabis was present throughout since I dropped out of school, 9th grade, and throughout. I joined the Army when I was 18. I served until I was 21. And at the time, I was actually a home grower. Me and my friend decided that, we want access to more quality. At the time, everything came, through the exposed border of Israel, from Lebanon, from Egypt. It wasn't the best weed. It was always full of seed, full of sand. It wasn't, what we see on YouTube and when we look to the States and the culture over there. And we decided that we just want to grow. So we bought a little, closet nook and a light and a couple of pots. And fast forward, when I got out of the Army, I asked my friend, I told him, listen, I really want to open a business. I don't want to find a job. I don't want to do anything. I really want to just open a business. And then he said, well, why don't we open a hydroponic store? And that's kind of resonated with me. And I said, I think that's a great idea. And we started reaching out to different nutrient manufacturers and different light manufacturers. And we wanted to see, because the only store that was close to us was maybe an hour and a half drive in a different city. So we decided to maybe do something more local, maybe for this, where we live. And one of the companies, if you don't mind, I'll give them free publicity, because I really like them. I think they have a great product. Is BioBiz out of Netherlands. It's an organic fertilizer. And they said, look, there is a group out in Tel Aviv. Maybe we should connect you with them. You might be able to do something with them. And that's how things happen. And we opened the first retail hydroponic store and scaled from there. Fast forward 10 years, I moved to the States. I got into restaurants. I got into other businesses that I had interest in, hospitality. And then another opportunity presented itself with an Israeli agriculture company that I was working with them throughout my phase in the hydroponic retail stores. And they said they want to incorporate in the US and they want to bring the technology here. So I basically invested, and we did a joint venture, and we brought the technology here, and we did some of the bigger and not better, but bigger and nice facilities for some of the leading cultivations. We started in California. Since then, we expanded to Arizona, New Mexico, Michigan, and a couple other markets. And then I'm just going to try to get us to Hefestus so we can talk a little bit about Hefestus. And then fast forward, I realized that there is just less and less cultivation sites being open. It's a very far process. Like, you secure the land or the place you want to cultivate on, then you have to design it, then you have to get permits from the city, from the county, then you have to implement your design. It's like building something. It takes a lot of work and a lot of planning to get there. And I realized that maybe it's not what I want to do. And I started to think, what's the next phase in the cannabis? Because by the time they cultivate, they realize they need a vehicle, a brand, something to put in the store. Once they're in the store, they need to provide the sales and scale. And once they get traction, what's the next solution that they need, which is automation. And at that point of time, me and Shachar kind of connected. Shachar is the CEO. That's his family business. And we just clicked immediately. And that's how I came about with Hefestus. And I've been with Hefestus now for about 4 years.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, I'm a big fan of your CEO. I was able to be on a call with him and your PR agency with Cassie there. And it was just to hear the passion, to hear that people, I like to always tell people that I can teach you how to sell anything, but what I can't teach you to do is give a shit. And just the way that you guys approach things, there's just a lot of give a shit there. There's a lot of care. And so to me, that's the kind of people you want to work with. And so when we had a chance to have the sponsorship, I was like, man, this is exactly the kind of people that I want to do business with, because I'm fortunate enough to be able to do this show with people I want. I'm not forced to do it. It either goes live with a sponsor or it don't go live, right? So it's cool with us. But to be able to have guys like you is really awesome. So let me ask you, as you go through your journey, you come here to the States, what was the biggest change and shock around the culture of the plant when you got here after doing what you did, going through the army, going through all these things in Israel, then coming here? What was the culture shock around cannabis for you?
I hate to ruin the question, but I didn't really had a culture shock. I've been doing back and forth for almost 10 years. And with the hydroponic retail stores at the time, I used to travel trade show. I used to travel to America to find what's the new product. What should I bring to Israel? What don't we have? What is the customer need? So I didn't really had a culture shock, but 2018, when I started that startup and I came to the cultivation, like the mega cultivation, 150,000 square feet greenhouses or 200,000 square feet greenhouses. That was kind of where I got the shock. I realized that it's bigger than what I saw. It's bigger than what I thought. And suddenly having access to those facilities, they're asking for an advice on cultivation. They're asking advice on, the irrigation regime, or being able to provide and realize how much knowledge, we accumulated over the years by servicing this industry. That was more of a shock for me, and understanding how much value we can bring, because I always thought that, what do I have to offer that somebody that already has this massive operation, they already have everything they need, I can only learn from them. But then I realized, no, there is actually a lot of value that we can provide and bring in terms of just research and agriculture. In Israel, that's all we do. We don't really have a cannabis industry. So we do a lot of research.
Right. Well, I was going to say with the hydroponic stores, right? So before, when my wife and I were living in Colorado, it was only medically legal. It wasn't full retail legal in that way, adult rec. And so every time you went to hydroponics or you went to the local greenhouse, you'd always be growing tomatoes, right? So I imagine you guys dealt with a lot of that in your time, where people were growing tomatoes and you're like, yeah, okay, here's how you grow the biggest tomatoes.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. We never talked about what we're actually doing, but we were always, hand in hand, like, you're not gonna invest, I don't know, $500, $1,000 in a tomato setup. You'll buy a little pot and
that's awesome though. I love you being able to be on that side of it though, Tomer, like for you to see it from a perspective of filling a need in the space, being able to know that you were helping home growers, you were helping people do things. Did you guys have any legal pushback with your operations because it was frowned upon?
A ton. I can give you a lot of stories. A quick one, just one time I get to one of the stores, and there's like maybe 20 police cars and like armed people in there. I'm like, I'm drinking my coffee, half stoned, tumbling in the store. It's like, oh, we're being raided. I'm like, great. Can I help you find something? Like specifically, like, can I point you out in the right direction? It's like, we're going to find it. We're gonna find it. We know you're selling pot, and like we know you're selling. Like, okay, just please don't damage anything. I started recording everything. They used to drive after me. Like they knew my schedule, who I'm meeting, where I'm going. Like it was just a joke. So much resources and time for nothing.
And is the relationship different today in Israel with the plant than it was in those times, Tomer, or is it pretty similar? Because obviously here in the U.S. we've made a pretty big leap. I know not everyone feels that way, but it is a pretty massive leap for a country this size to do what it's done. What is the current status today for Israel?
Today it's still, I would say, illegal, but right now if you get caught with a certain amount, you might get a fine. If you pay the fine, which is kind of dumb, but that is an admission of guilt. And if you try to undermine the fine, most likely they're going to dismiss it because they don't want to go to court and tell the judge, we caught him with 5 grams of weed. like times have changed. There is a lot more openness. Israel climate has changed. You walk through Tel Aviv and you smell it in the air. You see it everywhere. It's not as taboo that it was 15 years ago.
All right, good. I'm glad to hear that. And the being in the air is my favorite part about visiting New York now. I used to hate visiting New York because I just never liked all the hustle and bustle. Now when I go there, I love to smell all the different weed everyone has. It makes it enjoyable to be there. All right, man. So look, you've been really cool with your origin story. I'm really appreciative of it. We are going to get into the hot hits part of things here. So don't forget, everybody, hot hits. Yep, it is brought to you by our sponsor, Hefestus. They are the top automation pre-roll group out there. If you're looking to keep your pre-rolls fresh from the start to the finish, basically from the factory to my house, check them out. Hefestus-tech.com. There they are. We love them. Thank you so much for the sponsorship, as always. All right. So a little word association here. So Tomer, I say AI and cannabis ag tech. You say what?
We're getting into it very soon, and we're gonna surprise you with a few things.
Anything else you can tease on that? I don't want to overstep it there.
No, because I feel like the word AI is overused for now in cannabis. At the end of the day, it's boots on the ground. It's a plant. It needs attention. No AI can replace the grower or the guy that's making your pre-roll.
Now we're talking here. Pre-roll. I think AI is overused everywhere. And on top of that, I live in a place where they're coming to build data centers because it's cold here. And that's just worse for everyone, So I have my own problem with it. And I actually never used it, Tomer. I don't even let Google write my emails. I'm that anti-AI. So
I can understand that.
No, I get it. All right. I say rescheduling. You say what?
Yesterday. What are we waiting for? It should have happened a long time ago.
That's interesting. Well, Tomer, not to get too political here, but we're also waiting for some files to be released by our government. So we're not exactly sure how quickly we're going to get around to things that matter to the people.
I know, but to me on rescheduling, I just want the industry to get out of the constraints of regulation and being able to do research here and really care about the plant and the education side, because as long as it's a Schedule 3, nobody really pay attention to the education side.
So to you, is that the best part of the Schedule 3? Obviously it has its downsides in big pharma and so on and so forth. And I get all of it. But I'm a progress for progress guy. And so I view this as progress. But many don't. What say you on that topic?
I don't know. I'm just happy that we're starting to unchain it. The more chains that we remove, the better it is for everyone. I don't have a strong stance on it. I don't really care. I know that the OGs who built this industry, and that's why we're here, thanks to those people that really put the fight. Yeah, maybe big pharma and other big brands are going to come and harvest that fruit, but that's just the reality. It's been like that in every industry, and it's part of it.
It is part of industry growth, right? You can't just sit and want one thing, but then get another and then think that's not what you wanted, right? So, look, we want to elevate this plant. That's the point of the show, right? That's what we always talk about. Elevate this plant, be able to remove the stigma around this plant. So, yeah, I mean, that to me, like you, I like the way you said it too. I circled it in my notes. Unchain it. Just, a link at a time. We can get somewhere. Again, I'm 45 years old, man. I mean, I don't think that I saw this for my 45s. I just don't. I know that everyone now, blah, blah, blah. But when we were doing medical in Colorado, 2005, I didn't see adult rec. I didn't even consider it because I had a medical permit. I was growing my own 100 plants for my friends and their families. And I was in heaven. I didn't think about needing something more. The right of a home grower, though, that should just be a God-given right. Would you agree with that, Tomer?
Absolutely. Just like you can grow mint, tomato, cucumbers, that should not be regulated in any way whatsoever.
If you can be a home brewer, then I can be a home grower. I don't see how the two are any different.
Agreed. If you can brew beer, you can grow cannabis. That's it.
I love it. All right, last question on the hot hits. This seems like a loaded question to ask a guy in your position, but we do it anyways. Favorite way to consume, Tomer?
Oh, I don't have a favorite. I don't have a way I don't like to consume, from eating, drinking, smoking, smelling. If they had a cannabis perfume, I'd probably use it. But
all right, any new product? Any new product that isn't a pre-roll that would maybe surprise folks that you did enjoy, whether it was a topical or a drink? What's the craziest, latest thing you've enjoyed that might catch us by surprise?
I like the rosin, the full spectrum rosin edible, just because it's a full spectrum. So for me, it's just providing, full experience. It might be not consistent on the deliveries, but as long as you know your body and your plant and your reaction, I think you'll enjoy it. Anything that's full spectrum.
Love that. Love the full spectrum. I've actually got some, I was on a trip recently in Colorado. I got some high dose nighttime gummies with some CBN, man. Whew, nice. It's one thing to put a label on the outside, but then you open the bag and there's a label on top of the bag that says, this is not to be screwed with. This is not for the, faint of heart. And so I chop them up, and man, even as a daily user chopping them up, I sleep a solid 8 hours, man. I love it.
CBN, CBG does give you a good night's sleep.
That's what I like about what you said about opening up the research, because you can research everything else in this country. You can go, you can go a million different ways and look at things that may or may not matter to society, but a plant that has benefits, or Tomer, maybe it doesn't have all the benefits we thought. Do you know what I mean? But we wouldn't actually know because we haven't been able to use it.
Absolutely. We're talking a lot about it in Israel, and in Israel, because all we have is research, and obviously everybody's trying to capitalize on something or make a profit out of the plant, but they're trying to isolate the different cannabinoids and prove their function. What does it do? How do we consume it? Or which cannabinoids work with which cannabinoids to give you the effects that you want. And we're still so early on. I want to say that there is, from the numbers I remember, not sure it's probably grown since, but there was about 75 different cannabinoids identified, and maybe only half of them actually have been researched.
See, and that's the fun that I'm having in this whole thing. As a lifetime user of 30 years or whatever, I never even considered the science of this whole thing. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know that I had an internal cannabinoid system, that is unique to the human body. I didn't know this shit, right? So that's, to me, as a car kid who moonlights in the cannabis industry, it is just so cool to follow research people and scientific people on LinkedIn, because that's where I consume the bulk of it, man. Do you enjoy that side as well, given your history with the plant, man?
Oh, absolutely.
And you get to be around but you get to be in those rooms with those people. What's that like, to be in the room with, kind of the guy who uses the science as well as the grow? That's got to be pretty fun.
It is very fun. And to be honest, the guy that does the science, a lot of the team needs the guy that's actually consuming to give him the feedback and direct him, because as scientists, they don't always consume and they don't really know what to even look for. So without the feedback, they're almost walking blindly. So they really need...
If they need test subjects, you just hand them my email, bud. You know what I mean? I can get a line of people. We're all here to help, man. I love that. I love that. All right, Tomer, let's do this on the way out. I like to just be able to get it. Tell me, what do you see? What's next for your company and what you guys are trying to accomplish? I know we touched on the AI thing, but what's next? What's the plan for 2026 for you and the crew?
To be honest, we've been talking a lot about it. Let's put the R&D, the next generation of innovation that we're going to bring. For us, it's really focusing on our customers, the people who are actually using it, and bringing them to the forefront of the stage. Because yes, we have a great technology, and yes, we're servicing the industry, but without them, we become irrelevant. So our approach for 2026 is really bring them to the forefront, let them tell the story, let them say how even Hefestus came about. We did a couple of episodes with Cannabiz, and I loved it because you get to see the full scope of people. You got to see their background story, where they come from, and how did they got to the point where they need these automation.
Yeah. Look, man, so my buddy Ben works for you now, okay? My buddy Ben, I love Ben. He works for you now on the sales side, and he and I are trying to connect on getting me up to Minnesota to check out one of the factories, because I want to be there. I want to look at that. I want to create content around it because I think it's so damn cool. I can't even roll a joint. I'm not your guy. Like I've been a flower into the pipe guy for as long as it's been a thing. But now I smoke joints all the time because somebody else rolls them. And I know I got to pay a little bit more money, but that's all right.
First of all, let's do it. We'll be happy to have you go. I don't think any of our customer ever said, no, we don't want to do anything in our facility. They're actually very happy to show the technology, explain how they use it. Most of our work comes from referrals and people being in this facility, talking to the operators and asking, how does this machine works for you? And they're the one recommending us. We barely have to push anything. But Shaw, where are you based out of? Maybe we can set you up in your hometown.
Yeah, no, I live in Wisconsin, right? So I live in the middle of.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that it's
the middle of prohibition, as it were. Yeah. Unless you're into hemp, and I'm not trying to cross those boundaries right now. And I don't. Every time I go into one of these hemp dispensaries, I find actual weed. And I get really confused, and I walk out anyways because I'm like, this isn't right. I shouldn't be doing this, and so it's not for me. But I do have. We have a friend of ours that has a dispensary opening, hopefully. Right over the border here in Stillwater, Minnesota. And so I'm trying to collaborate with him on his opening. So once I know that, I'm going to connect with Ben and I'm going to go check out. You guys got one just outside of Minneapolis, I think. Yes. That's like 4-hour drive for us. And we'll go up and hang out in Minnesota for a week and have fun anyways.
That would be amazing. And we would love to make sure that you get to see the full specs from the cultivation to the final product, because I think that's what I like about it. It's like food, I want to see the farm. I want to know where it's coming from, and I want to know what's on my plate.
Yeah. And that, again, full circle for you, right? That's what you were doing in Nashville, if I remember correctly, in the food industry, was that farm to table concept, really helping people wrap their mind around that. This is that, right? Only it's got to be about keeping the cannabis fresh till it can get back to my place.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I'm actually still in Nashville.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. Nice. Hanging out. Is that where you live full time?
No. I'm in California.
Got you. I'm in Just hanging out in Nashville. Well, glad you're down there, man. Thank you so much for making the time to join me today. What a way to kick off season 5, not only with a great sponsor, but with a great human. So Tomer, thanks a lot for joining us. And folks, remember, the goal of this show is always to remove the stigma and uplift the plant to its rightful place in society. It takes a village to do it. We can all do our part, so let's do that. And thank you again to our sponsor, Hefestus. If you're into pre-rolls and you want to know how they stay so fresh, check out their technology. Their systems control the oxygen level to automatically protect my burn and yours. Go out, check them out. Hefestus-tech.com. cannabiz.com. Thank you to them. Thank you to Tomer. And thank you for joining us. Have yourselves a wonderful week.